For another week of talking about Magic the Gathering, some of our favorite games here. This time, not muted because that just happened where we tried to go live and I had our Twitch stream completely muted.
Who says Outlaws know how to use technology?
Well, we're here. This week, of course, we're talking about Outlaws at Thunder Junction, the new Magic set that's coming out. It's coming out this weekend. Pre-release is this weekend, and there is a ton of stuff going into it. I'm your host, Isaiah. That's Dragon Wrangler Jacob. He's lost his master title for this one, as at this point he is a Wrangler. We got our fancy hats, and we're ready to talk about the Cowboys and Outlaws of Thunder Junction. First of all, we got to talk about the crew.
I mean,
the crew's main leader, of course, is the outlaw Oko. Now, Oko, give me just a second.
The ringmaster.
I'm moving a monitor so Jacob can see it better. And if you see me go into this this pseudo-Western accent, it's because I'm wearing a hat. You can't resist it when you're in one of these hats.
Whoa.
So we've got Oko, the ringleader. He is the one that's brought this entire crew together. He'll be the one that's running things as they try to raid the vault. Fantastic planeswalker. 4-mana planeswalker. Beginning of combat, he turns into a creature. Whichever one you want on the board. Turn him into a Kozilek, guys. Except for it can't be legendary. It has to be a non-legendary. If you see Jacob looking down, he's pulling up the cards on his phone so he can read it better.
So, now here's my question. It specifies that it can be a copy of any target creature, right?
Yep.
So, you could technically set this up where you could copy a legendary.
If you had a way to get around the legendary rule, correct.
Then you can make as many copies as you want.
Now, of course, I'd say copies of the creature. But his +1, draw 2 cards. If you've committed a crime this turn, discard a card. Otherwise, discard 2 cards. So draw 2, discard 2, unless you've targeted somebody else with a spell, or their permanents with a spell. That's what's committing a crime. It's the new mechanic in this. One of the new mechanics in this set is committing a crime. So you've committed a crime against somebody if you target their stuff. And you know how we deal with criminals here in the West. Now, his -1 is an Oko classic. What's Oko without a 3/3 elk?
Right.
Now, if anybody remembers the terror that was the original Oko Thief of Crowns, he would turn you would turn your enemy's commander into an elk, or you turn any card into an elk and then trade it. It was nasty. He's gotten a very much a downgrade since then. He's not as good as Thief of Crowns, but he's still decent. He's the ringleader of this entire band of 6.
Misfits.
There was a discussion about whether there's 5 or 6. 6.
We had that discussion this morning for breakfast.
The second person that's joined the party is, of course, Jace. Now, Jace here, unlike where we've seen him before, in this one he disguised himself as Vraska. So, breaking down the lore, he disguised himself as Vraska for this whole vault thievery. And then, of course, his card, he's 2 mana, but his special ability is what makes it bad, because normally this is just a 2-mana planeswalker, which is great. You can't cast the spell first, second, or third turn of the game.
But there is ways around that.
There's ways around that. So the biggest way around this is, it says your turn. So if you got any way to give it flash, or any way to cast spells, so quicken or anything like that lets you cast stuff at instant speed, you could get him out significantly earlier. Not that you completely want to. He's a decent planeswalker for 2 mana. It's not bad. You've got draw a card, discard a card for a +1. His other +1 is, you exile non-land with mana 3 or less. It becomes plotted. That is the other mechanic of this set, which is plotting a card is you send it to exile, and you can cast it for free on a later turn. and it has to be at sorcery speed. We'll get into that later and why that's important. Honestly, he's not the strongest planeswalker. He is not the strongest planeswalker, and good lord, do you want to take it from here because my camera is going nuts.
As far as with him, he's saying he's not the most powerful planeswalker. For one, he has issues as far as not being able to play him the first 3 turns of the game, as well as his abilities. They're okay. They're not the best that we've ever seen. We've seen far better planeswalkers, especially when it comes to Jace. Jace has some very good variants.
We're looking at you, Mind Sculptor.
Right. I mean, like I said, you can plot it and cast a spell for 6 until end of turn. Whenever you cast a spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for that copy. So it just basically is going to allow you to copy a spell.
Yeah,
and
a bunch of spells. It's a setup for a large turn if you can do it right. If not, it's going to fizzle. Honestly, I don't think this Planeswalker has it. I think they made a very good move in this set of only printing 2 Planeswalkers, and that's what they're doing going forward.
Yeah.
Is that they saw that they went overboard with all the Planeswalkers and went, let's reel it back a bit. 1 to 2 Planeswalkers per set.
As well as they did a really good job as far as story-wise on removing the Planeswalkers, because when it came to the story, I mean, I don't even know how many Planeswalkers they had, but up until this point, story-wise, they decided, okay, most of these Planeswalkers lost their spark. They are not Planeswalkers.
Which is a brilliant way of doing things, and we'll get to that when we talk about the story. We're still going through the cards.
That's a problem.
Of course, the next person that joined up with the party, joined up with Chase, it's Vraska. Vraska the Silencer. Now, Death Touch, she is not a Planeswalker. She's always been a Planeswalker before. She is one of the ones that lost her spark. Legendary Gorgon Assassin for 3 mana. Death Touch, whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls die, you can pay 1 and turn it into a treasure. Now, this is a good way to steal stuff that you don't want in your opponent's graveyard. Because you can just take that treasure and you can just hold on to it. I mean, sure, it's a mana. This is essentially a mana storage ability, but I think the bigger thing is like you can... It doesn't create a copy. You take the card, so which means they can't pull it from their graveyard later.
Yeah, which not only that, but like you were saying, yes, it's technically a mana storage, but even then, having additional mana that other people don't have is beneficial.
Plus, it counts towards artifact.
Yeah.
So it can count towards your artifact total and your non-token total. So this can cause this can be very interesting if you build it right. If you don't build it right, well, I'm sorry, you're out of luck.
Yeah, it's not that useful at that point.
The next person that joined up with the party is, of course, Annie. Annie Flash,
the
veteran. Give me just a second while I fix Jake. So, talk about Annie Flash real quick while I get you fixed.
Okay. Annie Flash, creature with Flash, legendary creature, human rogue, which makes him, I think, an outlaw. Considers him an outlaw.
Her
an outlaw.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll check the Annie joins up card.
She has Flash. When Annie Flash, the veteran, enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Phenomenal. Return stuff from the graveyard is always great.
Yep. Easy, cheap mana return in Naya. I mean, you exile 2 cards from your library, so you get a bunch of impulse draw whenever she becomes tapped. Not attacking, just tapped. And you're in green, red, and white, which means giving your stuff a tap ability is pretty easy. So, Annie Flash being the veteran, and having Flash, that's a good ability on a commander, especially legendary creature. You can pull it on anybody's turn. But overall, I think she's kind of meh. She's not going to see a lot of play anywhere. We're gonna see some interesting commander builds out of her, but I don't think we're gonna see play. The next one we got.
Yeah, but you also got to look at her second ability.
Yeah, her second ability is what makes her good in things like commander. We'll not see her in modern. We won't see her in. We might see her in standard with some niche builds.
Yeah, commander, being able to play 2 cards from your library, great. I mean, legitimately, whenever any flash becomes targeted, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn.
Yeah, but that impulse draw is everywhere in red now.
Yeah.
Which means like it's a good ability for a commander.
This hat
hey,
might
you
fall
get that
off.
impulse drop, but you have to cast it. If you hit something that you don't like, the good news is it specifies play, not cast, which does mean if you nail a land, you can play your land.
Ooh, and there goes the dragon.
The second to last person to join up is Kellen. Kellen has been the main character of the last few sets. He's a fairy rogue from Eldraine, and he's been chasing down his father, Oko, because he found out he was half fairy. He wants to know more about his past, so he has been chasing down Oko. Bant, legendary creature, human fairy rogue, flying lifelink, 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser value from your hand without paying its mana cost.
Okay.
Now, I see where they're going with this. What I also see is how dangerous of an ability this is going to be. Now, you are in blue, which means you are in the card draw king of colors. You are in white, the freebie king of colors. You are in green. You have all the mana you ever need. Now,
usually, yeah.
What it's going for is, hey, plot. When you plot cards, you get to cast other free stuff. What they don't realize is you're in green, you have things like Sylvala Stampede. I don't think that casts, but you have some big haymakers that you can cast. You just have to figure out how to get them out of your hand, how to cast them from the graveyard, how to cast them from exile.
Yeah.
How to cast them from the... You're in green, white, blue. Guess what else you have? Cast from the top of the deck.
Or you want to take it even further and be very rude? Cast it from your opponent's library.
Casting your opponent's stuff. Because it doesn't care about whose card it is, only that you're casting it.
Right?
I didn't even think about taking from an opponent's library. That is a huge factor.
Opponent's library, graveyard. Heck, sometimes, I know, if I remember right, there's some cards that you exile somebody's card and cast it onto your battlefield.
Those are usually
you still cast
in red. So, but you have things in this blue color combination like Mind's Dilation. That whenever they cast a spell, you get to take from the top and cast it. You got so many options here that it's like it's not going to be hard to make a fun commander deck. I'm already brewing some Kellen the Kid stuff. In fact, we'll probably, when this video goes live, when we get it over to YouTube in the description, I will have an Architect to a Kellen the Kid deck, and it'll be playing this ability as a whole. Now, there was one other person that shows up that is a part of this crew. That would be Tiny Bones.
Tiny Bones Pickpocket.
1 black legendary Death Touch creature. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell.
Legitimately. I'm just going to steal that. I don't care that it's red, green, white, blue. It's mine. And I'm going to cast it.
Yeah, so I think we're not going to see him as a commander. I don't think. We're going to see him in the 99 in EDH. And that's because he's going to be playing in mill formats, mill decks.
Oh, definitely.
And one reason we're going to see that, you don't want to block him. He has Death Touch.
Yeah.
So you don't want to block him with anything major that you can use. So you're probably going to let him through most of the time. And they just get to steal something from your graveyard.
And that also depends, because he is a 1/1.
He is a 1/1.
So
correct.
people could just, I have a token, I'm going to block him and kill him.
Yep.
Token Dex Death Touch doesn't do anything. I mean, it is a throwaway creature. But once you bolster him up and give him trample, then yeah, you're gonna want to do something. Just because, I mean, you have a 10/10 coming at you.
You're not gonna with that.
You're gonna
block it.
You don't want to block it, and you're like,
no, you're gonna have to block it.
Yeah, you'll have to block it, but you don't want to.
But there's also evasion that you can put on him. So like I said, we're gonna see this in mill formats. Decks that like to put stuff into the opponent's graveyard, give their self evasion and hit.
Yeah.
So give him flying, give him unblockable, that kind of thing. We'll probably see him in a lot of black-blue decks because blue is really good at giving evasion.
Mm-hmm. You could also see him in black-green.
Black-green, we'll see that too.
Bolster him up, give him trample.
We'll see him in Sultai. He's a must include in Sultai, black, green, blue. These guys were great, but we also got to talk about, because there are some reprints in this set. We're going to talk about ourselves a Terror of the Peaks and where is it? And then the other one is Archangel of Tithes. Did I not pull the Archangel of Tithes in? I did not.
I've got to find it too.
Sorry. Wow. We were not as ready as I wanted to be with this. Archangel of Tithes. Here we go. There it is. So these are the notable reprints. Like, they went very minimalistic on the reprints, which is good. I fully agree with being minimalistic on reprints. We don't want too many, especially when they're doing the mystical archive style stuff, like the big heist. So, Terror of the Peaks, 5/4 dragon with flying. We all know him. Can't target him unless they have 3, and it deals a ton of damage to any target when creatures enter the battlefield under your control.
Right.
Great red card. Fantastic creature. Terror of the Peaks. Great in dragon decks. Great in so many things. Great in any red deck, really. Because you're like, yeah, I create a bunch of creatures, I deal a bunch of damage. And then, of course, the other one being Archangel of Tithes, which is, creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. So defense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead, attack me. You got to pay for that, though.
Yeah, picking these as your big reprints, I think that's something that getting rid of so many Planeswalkers does, is it opens up these mythic slots for big reprints like this, for cards that desperately need the reprint. Like, I can't remember I think Terror of the Peaks didn't need a reprint as bad as Archangel of Tithes.
Oh yeah, and not only that, but this set makes it really good because as far as the how am I trying to put the flavor on this set, Archangel of Tithes, he's your tax man.
He's your tax man. I love also the art. The art for Archangel is beautiful. Like, I'm pulling it up bigger right now to show everybody, but it's literally an angel with a gun.
What's more American than that?
They made the ideal American set. Now he talked about the flavor of this set.
I mean, the flavor of this set is phenomenal. It is hilarious. You go full Western, really.
So I just pulled up Shoot the Sheriff, which is a great card. First of all, great kill spell. Destroy target non-outlaw creature, so you can't hit assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, or warlocks.
Right.
But you hit everything else for 2 mana.
What would be even better is at some of these events, when somebody plays Shoot the Sheriff, give it a signal or something. When somebody plays Shoot the Sheriff, you play I Shot the Sheriff.
There's so much you can do. The flavor of the set is beautiful. If you take a look through the set, there's so many cards in here. We don't have the time to just pull them all up, but there are so many cards in this set that are like Shoot the Sheriff, High Noon. In fact, I'll be pulling up High Noon as well.
Oh, I'm trying to see where it's at. I had it at one point.
High Noon. Another one of those great like flavor stuff. You know, the player can't cast more than one spell each turn. It's a duel. One spell, everyone gets one shot. Pay 5, sack it, deal 5 damage to any target.
Right. I mean, it's legitimately
A duel at high noon. One spell each. I can sack it to deal some damage. Also, 5 mana to deal 5 damage. So you could this could be a game-ending thing, or it can be a great removal spell. Little expensive, but for those control players in Standard, beautiful. Now, some of the other stuff in this set, some of the cards we
but when you look at stuff like High Noon, when you look at that, I mean, yeah, it says it's 5 mana, but what happens when you plot it?
Well, that's an ability. That's not a... The High Noon itself is only 2 mana.
Oh, I didn't see that. I haven't been able to find it yet.
Yeah, so there's some other cards in this set we want to talk about. Like, we wanted to take one from every color and talk about it, and then just a fun of our some of our favorites here as well. So Caustic Bronco, whenever it attacks, reveal the top card of your library. You lose life equal to its mana cost, and then put it into your hand. And the reason I brought Caustic Bronco into this is because it introduces the other big mechanic in the set, which is Saddle. So you can tap any other creatures you control with total power equal to the saddle value, and the mount becomes saddled, which means you get the additional ability. So if the Caustic Bronco is saddled when you attack, your opponent loses life equal to the power of that card, equal to the mana value of that card, sorry. And then you've got Double Down, which also, flavor, double down. You know, you're doubling down on whatever crime you're committing. The best alibi is being in multiple places at the same time. I love the flavor. I love the flavor text.
Right. It's great. I mean, if you're going to, got to be in 2 places at once.
This is a similar to Vesuvian Duplicity. Whenever you cast an outlaw spell, copy that spell. So whenever you cast Assassins, Mercenaries, Pirates, Rogues, Warlocks. It's good. It's like... You know, the Assassins and Rogues, they're pretty good. And, like, this can go into fairy decks. There's so many places this can fit. Anywhere you're trying to play Rogues. Trying to play Outlaws in general. And then, of course, the last one is the Railway The next one we're going to talk about is the Railway Brawler.
See if I can find it.
5 mana. 5 mana. Reach Trample for a Rhino Warrior. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, double its power, essentially. Put X/1/1 counters onto it where X is its power. Double the creature's power of everything that enters the board under your control. Plus, it has plot for 4.
Oh. Can we put this in my token deck?
I mean, it would work for tokens, but I think there's better places for it.
Yeah, but... my token deck goes pretty nuts. I would really love to have 130.
Now, High Noon was our white card that we were going to talk about. So the red one we're going to talk about is Magda, the Horde Master. Now, people have been talking about this one because it's actually really good. Whenever you commit a crime, create a treasure token. Tapped. Sacrifice 3 treasures. Create a 4/4 red scorpion dragon creature token with flying and haste.
See,
activate only as a sorcery.
Honestly, there's some really good token cards in this.
This is for 2 mana.
Right?
This is 2 mana. And you get this thing. This is such a good card. It's going to be a commander. It's going to go in 99 in treasure decks. Because it's like, yeah, no, the payoff for the treasures are so high. You know, pay 7, cast Brass's Bounty. Now I've got like 15 treasures. I use it to create a bunch of dragons.
And I mean, this would also be fun. I have 2 decks. I have a token deck and a Cascade deck. Love Cascade because it's legitimately used to randomize everything, and it makes it great. But then when you throw in nuts stuff like this, just, oh yeah, I'm going to create a bunch of treasure tokens and dragons. It's great.
Yeah. I also want to talk about Aven Interrupter. This is where I brought up why the plot being a sorcery only ability is so important. because what Aven Interrupter does is when it enters the battlefield flash flying, exile a spell, it becomes plotted. Spells your opponents cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast. Now, that ability is not as big as, when it hits, you can nullify a counterspell. You can nullify a kill spell. The benefits of having instant speed stuff or an overload spell. You can nullify all of that with this thing. Because you're like, yeah, I bring it in, Cyclonic Rift goes to exile. You can cast it later without paying its mana cost.
But then you don't get the overload cost.
Plus, it's at sorcery speed.
Yeah.
You're gonna counterspell me? Well, send it to exile. You can cast it during your main phase.
And again, like they pay the overload cost, and that they lose all that mana. It's gone. You can't just never mind.
Yeah, there is so much there that's going into this set, and there's so much there's so many cards in there that are so good. We got to talk about Obeka. We have got to talk about Obeka. She's multicolored.
I'm looking for it right now.
The Splitter of Seconds. Menace, legendary, 4 mana. Whenever Obeka deals combat damage to a player, you get that many upkeep steps after this phase. Now, there's some confusion based on the wording originally when it came out. It has been ruled that what they mean by that many, it's not every time she deals combat damage you get one. It's based on her damage, how much damage she does.
So if you bolstered her to a 10/10 and hit him for 8,
you get 10. You get 8 upkeeps.
Which with how many cards? I mean, I played a lot of cards that say
the courts, mechanized. She's in blue, so you can run mechanized production.
Not only
win the game.
Not only that, but what is it called? The Monarch.
Yeah, the Monarch stuff.
All the Monarch stuff is based
courts.
off of.
That's what I was talking about when I said the courts, the Monarch courts, because not all Monarch is not based on upkeep; it's based on end step. But when you take the Monarch, the courts do stuff at your upkeep. So this deck can be built in so many ways where you're just like, yeah, I'm piling the upkeeps. How many upkeeps do I get? As many as I want.
Or what else? What was your voting deck? You had a politics deck.
Pivot voting deck. It didn't do anything at the upkeep. Obeka can't use it.
I know you had there was some cards in there that triggered a vote at your upkeep.
Oh, yeah. It was the Coercive Portal. You get a Coercive Portal 10 times a turn. 3 times a turn.
That's just rude.
Drawing extra cards, everything like that. This card is such a strong card. We're going to see it in Commander.
Oh, most likely. Most of these cards we'll see it in Commander at some point.
Now, we're pretty much on to the multicolored stuff. So I want you to talk about Girid.
Girid, Mirror of the Wilds. Haste, non-token creatures you control have tap, create a token that's a copy of target token you control that entered the battlefield this turn. I love playing my token deck. I do a token life gain, kind of.
he plays a Tristani Selesnya deck,
which is so much fun. But I've always had a problem generating my tokens. Like once I get tokens that I can generate, I start spewing out tokens. But the initial start is difficult. This helps with that because I just have to have one token. As long as it enters the battlefield, I can continue to copy it.
Yep, you can make so many copies, and you're just like, yeah, I get to copy all of these. You're in red, so you get different kinds of tokens. The last one we're going to talk about, because it has story implications, because we're going to get to kind of the story of the set after this, is loot, the key to everything. Now, he is not in the main set. He is in the big score, which is all the random spells that they've made to go with it. Powerful stuff. He is what they were after when they're going into the vault. Now, the story goes, Oko's getting a crew to raid this vault. Jace and Vraska are going because they know that there's something in the vault, that it is very powerful, and that they can't let Oko sell it to the highest bidder.
So they're legitimately going in this to betray him.
Yep. And that's how it plays out. The heist goes down. They get to the vault. Jace and Vraska betray the entire crew. Now, they didn't know it was Jace because Jace had disguised himself through this entire thing. Actually, he's been disguised as Ashiok since Eldraine.
Okay, so nobody knows he's even Jace.
Yeah, he doesn't. Nobody knows he's Jace, and you can see that on the Jace card. On the Jace card, if you look at the art, half of him looks like Ashiok.
Yeah, he kind of looks Two-Face.
Yeah, and so that was very much, he revealed himself at that point to be Jace. Because I don't know what happened to Ashiok. We haven't seen Ashiok. Last we saw of Ashiok, she was tormenting Elish Norn on Phyrexia.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna pick anybody to copy, you might as well.
Yeah.
Pick somebody who's been missing for a long time.
Yeah, where nobody knows where they're at. But they get in, they betray everybody, they open the vault, get the big score, which is this little guy. Loot, the key to everything. Now, we're going to see this because it has story implications for the next few sets. This set is very much wrapping up, most likely, the Kellen arc, as I'm calling it, where Kellen has been traveling plane to plane looking for his father.
Which with this, where's the Kellen card?
Kellen
the Kellen the Kid, the flavor text on it. I found out who I was. Now
it's time to discover who I am.
Yeah.
So he found Oko. Now it's time to figure out who he is as Oko's son.
So it's coming to the end of his story.
Yep. And you've also seen that as like his color alignment has changed set to set. So he was red on Ixalan. I think he was just Simic, or he was banned. I can't remember. Or he just had one color. I can't remember on Wilds, but he has been, and then he has been changing colors. So he's a character who's been looking for who he is, and to understand that he's been trying to figure out who his father is, which is Oko. And so now he's found it. So I think the Kellen arc is coming to an end. We are beginning what I'm gonna lovingly call, and this is complete speculation.
All right.
But I think we're coming to what I'm calling the Omen Path arc. Figure out what exactly changed in the multiverse to open all of the Omen Paths. Loot is important because his mind contains a map of the multiverse, including the Omen Paths. So if you haven't been watching the story too much, essentially what happened is after Phyrexia fell during March of the Machine, it was warped to another. It was replaced by Zalfir. Literally, they just swapped dimensions and like, okay, well, we're coming out of suspension. We can put you in. Sent Phyrexia spiraling essentially into the abyss.
Because why not?
And at
I'm
going to
send them into the void.
Nissa had it wasn't Nissa. It was Ren. Ren purified the Realm Breaker, the World Tree. That World Tree. And I just got a message for some reason. Probably somebody yelling at me about never mind. And it changed the nature of the multiverse. After the events of Realm Breaker happening, the multiverse needed to heal.
Which
now we've seen this before. We've seen the multiverse correcting itself before.
Yeah, I haven't looked into a lot of the story for Magic. I got a lot of stuff to focus on. Me and Isaiah have conversations about this all the time about just random stuff. And like we were discussing it, there's periods of times where the multiverse has to heal itself and correct itself because something happened so massive that it would have destroyed everything. So it has to correct itself.
Oddly enough, both times it's done this, it's involved a Silex. So the first time the multiverse had to correct itself was when Urza detonated the Silex. During the was it that time? It had to deal with Urza. I think it was when it no, that's when Urza awakened, and so it wasn't when he detonated a Silex. That was after. The first time, it was during the mending. It was the mending. So Dominaria had been fractured as a whole. Its timelines were all over. The multiverse healed itself because of all these split timelines, called the mending. This mending turned planeswalkers from godlike entities and immortal deities to people that had to live amongst people, could just walk between worlds. They were not godlike entities before, but after
they're not gods, they bleed.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to that's where the whole Nicol Bolas art comes in, because he was a pre-mending planeswalker. That's what they're called when they had that ability and it was stripped from them. They were pre-mending planeswalkers. Okay. He wanted to regain that power. This time, the World Tree was open. They detonated the Silex at the World Tree, knowing that the Silex could potentially not only destroy Phyrexia, but destroy everything else.
Destroy the entire universe.
Yep.
Which, hey, guess what? It has to fix itself when it destroys itself.
Well, it didn't destroy itself, because instead of detonating the Silex there, they burned the World Tree.
Okay.
And this World Tree was what wounded reality. This World Tree had spread between all these dimensions, put holes in them, portals everywhere, and as soon as that tree went away, the multiverse said, I have all these holes in reality. I need to fix it. And so what it did is it stripped a bunch of planeswalkers of their spark, said, okay, no, we need this power. We don't know why it stripped the planeswalkers of their spark, but it was a new event. I'm calling it, I don't think anybody else is calling it. I'm calling it the second mending.
Well, that's just it. The many, they all became godlike.
No, they went from godlike beings to normal planeswalkers.
Yeah, but this is, like you were saying, there's too many holes in the world. They have to somehow patch the holes, or just find a way to bridge all the worlds together, so that way there's not just random portals showing up out of nowhere.
That's what omen paths are. These omen paths, essentially, there's a new tree. Now, I believe Kaldheim planted a new tree, or a new tree was planted, or when Ren purified Realmbreaker, it changed things, and now you have all these omen paths, and that's how the multiverse mended itself. Instead of saying, okay, I can't close all these holes, but what I can do is, instead of them being holes in reality, they're now bridges.
And if I remember, we were talking about it, most of these holes in reality were made by planeswalkers.
No, these were made by Realmbreaker.
These were made by Realmbreaker.
Yes.
Okay. What? I don't remember who he was. Like I said, I don't look into the story very much.
Realmbreaker was not a person. It was the corrupted world tree. The Phyrexians planted their own world tree, and then essentially used it as a planar portal to invade other planes.
Basically, it was just a cannonball to shoot through the next.
Yeah, open a hole
barriers.
so the planeswalkers not planeswalkers, but the Phyrexians can pile through and invade to bring completion to the multiverse. It didn't work. In the aftermath, a bunch of planeswalkers lost their spark. Because of it, loot. This is why I'm talking about loot. Loot matters because the thing about the omen paths is they need to be mapped.
Nobody's mapped them yet.
Omen paths go from plane to plane, so it's like Eldraine connects to Ixalan, Ixalan connects to Kaladesh and some other places. There's multiple omen paths on different planets, but you need to map them.
I mean, you could have what, 2-3 portals connecting one world to several others.
Yep.
And then you could have legitimately one that's off by itself that only has a single portal to access it.
Yeah. So Loot is important because he is a complete map in his head. His mind is a map. His mind is a map of the multiverse. Jace realized that after they free him. He looks into their mind, realizes that's a map to the multiverse, including the omen paths. And he goes, we have to keep this thing safe. because if a warlord gets it, if somebody unscrupulous gets it, they now have free reign over the multiverse. Like I said, I think we're going into what I'm calling the Omen Path arc, where Jace and Vraska are now going to find out either where the Omen Paths originated or where they end, to figure out, okay, what's going on. And their goal is to potentially get Vraska back her spark.
And also, I mean, they got to protect the key.
They have to protect this key.
And the best way to do that is to find somewhere that, using the map, find somewhere that would make it nearly impossible for somebody else to find.
Exactly.
Whether, I mean, just one of these planes that are just out of the way somewhere that nobody knows about.
Yeah. Overall, I could talk about the lore forever. I'm not going to do it. Overall, the storytelling for Thunder Junction was really well done. I encourage people to go read it themselves. I like the story elements. They talked about what happened to Jace after March of the Machine, what happened to Vraska after March of the Machine. If you're wondering, Jace goes home for the first time. Jace has never returned to Vryn. And he goes home and seeks out healing. And then begins this fight to get loot. Like I said, we're coming into what I'm calling the Omen Path journey. The Omen Path arc is going to be, I think it'll be another shorter arc. I like the idea that they're doing short arcs. I don't like that it's based around Jace. I really like that they focused on a different character than Jace, and a non-planeswalker at that. We focused on Kellen for multiple sets.
Yeah.
Overall, this set was really well done. People were kind of worried when Thunder Junction came out, because it's like, how are you going to do an Outlaw set? You need to introduce guns. And it's like, no. Magic's strong enough. Magic's strong enough.
Even then, you think about it. Guns, okay. Reach.
Yeah.
I mean.
So when we went here and I saw the cards from Thunder Junction, I went, Thunder Junction looks phenomenal.
And if I remember, I was looking. There's I think several cards that have reach.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of cards that have reach. But
I mean, how?
But that's not the
like
issue.
you were saying, Railway Brawler.
Yeah, there were so many issues about how the technology meshes, because we were getting into the age of electricity in the Wild West. Which it's like, yeah, no, you're essentially, it's West Punk. West Punk, you're like, yeah, you have this magic in here that does a lot of the stuff, which is the thunder-based weaponry, and it's pretty cool. Well done. The cards, phenomenal. I love the cards. The flavor, they nailed it with this set. Honestly, I give this set, I never give a set a 10 out of 10, because it's not perfect. It's never perfect. If this was perfect, I would need a bear. Like a grizzly bear.
I think there's a card with a bear in this.
No. Like, no abilities, a bear. 2 mana, 2/2, no abilities. A bear. A grizzly bear. It's just coming into a part of that having magic is that we've lost vanilla creatures. I mean, given a 9 out of 10, the set is phenomenal.
Awesome.
I love it. The alternate arts that they did, where the wanted posters arts for everything. Everybody now has a wanted poster. It's phenomenal. Outlaws at Thunder Junction nailed
right
it.
Here. Sorry, it's a bear druid.
No, sorry. Outlaws at Thunder Junction nailed it. And I got to give it to him. But I think that's also all that we have for you guys this week. Of course, join us in like half an hour. Sorry, more like 20 minutes. Because we're getting back into Tears of the Kingdom.
Which you played a little bit during the week, got some shrines and some maps, which was great.
Yeah, doing some bookkeeping.
Yeah, just that way we can survive more than 2 hits, because at least Tears of the Kingdom has a 1-hit thing.
Yeah.
But
that's everything we have for you for Thunder Junction. So join us later. Would love to see you guys in chat. I'm your host, Isaiah.
I'm Dragon Wrangler Jake this time.
We're logging out.